Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're gonna be speaking on a Florida man who tortured and drowned a 6-year-old boy. Come to find out, I actually went to high school with this guy. April 22nd, 2023, Polk County Sheriffs and Fire Rescue responded to a Winter Haven home that would soon be known as a house of horrors after receiving a call for a 6-year-old drowning in a bathtub. Investigation revealed the little boy named Anthony was sent to take a bath by his 25-year-old mother Alizé because he had peed on himself. 20 minutes would go by before Alizé's husband, 28-year-old Trey Seymour, went to check on the child. The bathroom door was locked, so Trey went to the basement to find a key, but would end up having to use a metal fork to pry open the door. That's when he saw 6-year-old Anthony face down in the bathtub with his feet under the faucet. The stepfather removed the boy from the tub, draining the water and beginning CPR while he yelled for the boy's mother to call 911. Anthony was transported to a local hospital before being airlifted to St. Joseph's Hospital in Tampa. Both locations would contact law enforcement over concerning signs of abuse, as the boy had multiple open wounds and scars across his body. While the boy was in critical condition, a search warrant would be obtained for the home, and several concerning observations were noted. The lights on the side of the home 3 children were kept didn't work, and the bathroom the little boy was found in had no electricity because Trey had turned off the breaker weeks prior. The bathroom had 2 doors, both of which were closed at the time, meaning the 6-year-old boy was told to bathe in complete darkness as his world faded into complete darkness. He was sent to this bathroom as punishment, as he wasn't trusted to shower in the master bathroom that had electricity. Polk County Sheriffs would make their way into the garage where they observed a dog cage, later learning this was 6-year-old Anthony's prison cell. The bedroom the children slept in also had no electricity, so any time spent in the room was spent in darkness. Clothes covered in feces and urine were sprawled all over the floor, as feces was also smeared inside of the closet walls. Investigators would notice the door handle had been reversed. Instead of the lock being on the inside of the room, the lock had been placed on the outside, so the children were able to be locked in. An interview was conducted with Alizé, and she'd go over sending Anthony to the tub after he peed on himself. 20 minutes would pass before Trey checked on the child, and when asked what she was doing during those 20 minutes, she told investigators she was scrolling through TikTok. But her story was inconsistent. Initially, she said she went to check on the 6-year-old when he slammed the bathroom door, but when asked again, she said she never checked on him. She then claimed she can't remember anything clearly because when she thinks about it, it gives her anxiety, and when asked to search her cell phone, she denied the request. An interview was conducted with Trey, to which he gave consent to search his phone. Trey would tell investigators he recently deleted all of his texts between him and Alizé, but he normally deletes his texts. He further stated they've texted before about the children, and he'd tell investigators whenever he's at work, Alizé has trouble taking care of the kids because they do not respect her, and in the past, she's called him begging to come home so she doesn't have to go to jail. 2 days after Anthony was taken to the hospital, they conducted a brain scan with no results. Trying again, doctors would confirm the boy had no brain function and he was pronounced dead. An autopsy would confirm suspicions that there was evidence of prior abuse, resulting in scarring on the boy's body. 6 days after the drowning, investigators obtained a search warrant for Alizé's cell phone, revealing texts showing just how sinister the 2 parents were. Trey would write, "When I get there, the rooms that aren't plugged into cameras are getting their breaker turned off," confirming to police that it wasn't that the kids' room and bathroom didn't have electricity, but that Trey would control the electricity as a form of power and punishment. Trey would call Anthony slow, as he told Alizé how he caught him stealing noodles off the counter. And on another day, Trey would ask where Anthony was, and Alizé would reply with, "Cage. He has to stay there. I don't want him out when I'm home." So even though Trey was the stepfather, Anthony's own blood mother was locking him in a dog cage because it was easier for her than parenting her son, who suffered in a shit-infested home without electricity and food. Texts would continue as Trey said Anthony got out, referring to the dog cage. Once again, the poor 6-year-old boy was caught stealing food and placed into the cage while the two spoke on an open Child Protective Services case where Trey said she's going to jail and Alizé replied saying who gives a fuck. Alizé would send Trey a video of the boy in the dog cage saying he was trying to sneak in the house. She'd say he can stay in the cage and rot, followed by she hates him. And on another day, Trey would tell her son was hurting himself, but all she'd say back was good, tell him kill himself. For a 6-year-old boy to be self-harming, imprisoned within a dog cage, and left in total darkness for hours at a time, it's unimaginable to comprehend how he must have felt and how bad he must have wanted to get away. Alizé would tell Trey he can't take a nap because he stayed up all night drunk torturing Anthony. The two would argue about who can and who can't abuse Anthony, as the two would take turns but then place blame on one another. Trey would ask Alizé why she can't do the right thing until the boy is signed away to an agency, and Alizé would claim she didn't know he'd hurt himself and was busy with the other 2 kids she loved and cared about. The day before Anthony was drowned, Alizé would reference the chorus of a song by Rod Wave titled Street Runner. She'd say if I ever killed my son, it would be to that song, cause I honestly was gonna, I'm just being honest. The song lyrics would read, loving you is my greatest sin. Later that day, she'd tell Trey she wants to put him up for adoption. A member of Child Protective Services would interview Anthony's 10-year-old brother for the second time. He'd admit that during the first interview he didn't tell the truth because he was scared to tell the truth. When asked why he was scared, he said Alizé told him if he tells anyone what happened, Trey would go to jail. And if Trey goes to jail, she would choke him. The 10-year-old boy went on to say 6-year-old Anthony got in trouble for stealing food, and as a result, Trey took him to the bathroom to go swimming. The boy would define swimming as drowning, and drowning as holding Anthony's head underwater. While explaining Trey's torture method, the 10-year-old motioned his hand showing exactly how Trey held Anthony's head under the water. Trey kept telling the 10-year-old to go to his room, but he didn't listen. He was frozen as he watched Trey drown his little brother in the dark tub. When Anthony stopped moving is when Trey laid him on the floor and attempted CPR before leaving him in the bathroom. The 10-year-old boy described how Trey would put the boys in chokeholds just to get them to go to sleep. He'd also say him and his 7-year-old brother were rewarded with candy and food just to beat up Anthony. They'd punch the 6-year-old until he was weak enough to get put in a dog cage where he'd remain for hours while the 10 and 7-year-old would be locked in their bedroom. Alizé has 6 other children, and all of her kids have now been placed in DCF custody. Both Alizé and Trey have been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter of a child, aggravated child abuse, tampering and felony life capital proceeding, child abuse, and causing a minor to become needy. For the drowning murder of 6-year-old Anthony Rouse, the couple faces a possible death sentence under Florida law. Now, this is one of the most saddest and hottest cases I've had to cover. And the fact that I went to school with Trey makes this even crazier. I was just recently in Tampa and I reconnected with 2 people that I was around in high school. I met Trey, I actually fought Trey around the same group of people. I could proudly say I beat Trey. I never would have guessed that, in 10, 11 years, this would be the situation. To hear what he did to that 6-year-old boy and the other 2 kids, and with me having a 6-year-old daughter, people say I don't wish jail on nobody, I don't wish jail. I'm not wishing jail. I hope they fry his ass. Florida has the death penalty. You just drowned a 6-year-old little boy in front of his 10-year-old brother, yeah, you should be able to skip the fucking line and go lay down immediately and take that. If the inmates don't get to you first. To hear that these kids were locked in the dock in a piss and shit infested room. To hear that this 6-year-old was starving for food and would have to sneak in the house and steal whatever he could steal just to be beaten for it and forced into a dog cage. To hear how when these kids were sleepy, instead of them being held, instead of a night light, a bedtime story, they were getting choked to sleep. This case doesn't deserve any remorse for the 2 people that have been arrested, especially the mother. To do that to your own children. Her other kids were already taken away. And I tried to reach out to Anthony's father because it ain't Trey. I saw on his Facebook he was shooting back at people in the comments that were calling him a bad father, asking where he was at. I sent him a message. He either ignored it or didn't see it. I don't know where he was at during all of this. Apparently, Anthony, his first 2 years alive, was in the custody of the state. His last 4 years alive, he was with his fucking mother. I don't know why. But sadly, it took him dying for those other 2 kids to escape that fucking house. And for Trey and Alizé to be put away. So now the parents have their own dog cage to sit in. And the fact that I've been to Florida State Prison, it bothers me knowing that where they're going is going to be a cleaner, more sanitary situation than what those kids were in. Those kids were in a worse prison than Florida State Prison. Rest in peace to that little boy. Fuck the parents. Drop y'all's thoughts and comments in the comment section. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all rocking with me. Till next time.